This question here, signs that you're too focused on the logbook and advice for overcoming that fixation.
So I would say one thing I actually do like, and I have done with clients a few times, you have your one sort of top set where you are PR focused and you do really want to drive progression, but then maybe you have either a second set and possibly a third set where you are much more focused on kind of technique and so-called mind muscle connection, like feeling the muscle, not cheating and being a little bit stricter, maybe adding in a pause, obviously with a lighter weight, because you no longer have that kind of stress of having to PR. I think you can also maybe use a variation of a movement because especially for powerlifters or former powerlifters, they are very numbers focused because they have to be, because powerlifting is all about the numbers, right? And hitting the biggest numbers for those three lifts. So, but a powerlifter probably is not as attached to their front squat as a low bar back squat. They're probably not as attached to an RDL or a back extension compared to a conventional deadlift from the floor. They're probably not as attached to a dumbbell bench press or a machine press compared to ye old barbell bench press. So maybe getting away from the biggest lifts for a good chunk of your work is a good idea. And then also, yeah, having maybe one big top set where you can really get that aggression into it. But then later, okay, that is done. Now we're gonna do something else. And I think probably ideally, and you touched on this before with pull-ups, right? Like there's sort of I'm going for a PR style, but
Hmm.
then there's like, okay, I actually want to get the most stimulus out of this set. And I do a lot of the latter now because I find it is easier on the joints, it is easier to recover from, and it's better for progression, even if the raw numbers are not always as high. So I think a lot of people look at my training and think like, oh, you're doing so much volume, or oh, it's so high effort, or so many grinders. But in a lot of cases, I'm not that strong in terms of the actual numbers because I am using a technique that doesn't allow as much weight.
Yeah. So my thoughts on it, I mean, I remember being complimented. Actually, this guy complimented me to my dad. So I was like 14 years old in the gym. There was like the owner of the gym, big juiced up guy. And he's like, oh yeah, he's got the right idea because I had a logbook with me, and I have all of my training. Actually, I don't know if I want to pull this up right now. It's a little bit under my laptop, but my dad, they're trying to clear out their house, and he just dropped off for me like 10 years of like actually my calendar. So I used to just every day I'd have a check mark on the calendar that I didn't have a cheat day or anything like that, no cheat meals or anything. So I completed. I remember I had gone like 87 days without a single variation, which I think was dumb, right? I lost out on social experiences and all that. But like literally, I'm looking at this right now, and it was like check mark. And this was what year is this? This was 2007. So like November 6th, check mark, swim 2,500 meters, run. I have my waist and my weight and all of that on there. And like I just literally have this for like here's my caliper measurements, full body 9 on here, full body 7, et cetera. And that's just like my entire life. And I'm just very much oriented like that. Like if you're somebody who's just like kind of chill, like I don't think there's a way to become that. Like you kind of are or not, to the point that it's kind of like an OCD thing for me. So I am hyper focused on the logbook. But that doesn't mean, and it's the same reason why I still track my calories and use a food scale. I obviously don't need to do that at this point. I could be very intuitive with it. I just like to have the data. I just like to know. And it's actually mentally easier for me to do that than to not. It would really bother me if I didn't have this and I couldn't look back on it. So that's just a me thing. So because of that, maybe I'm not the best person to ask, like, how do you not focus too much on the logbook? What I would say is, along with the lines of GVS, I would say don't let that get you to then do things to beat it arbitrarily. So, for example, I don't think rest times matter all that much if it's reasonable. But what is a pet peeve of mine is when people talk about like it's so common to people say, I rest about 2 to 3 minutes in between sets. And you look at it like, dude, you're resting like 5 minutes. I just went down this rabbit hole in like myo reps videos and I just saw Brad from 3DMJ And I just saw him talk about his myo reps. And he's like, okay, I'm going to take like 15 seconds here. And I'm watching this. I'm like, dude, this was like a 35-second break, which doesn't matter. If you're consistent with it, I don't think it matters. But the point is like keeping things consistent is important. So if you are going 1 week to the next, then I would say don't add 60 seconds to your rest time then if you're consistent with it previously to then get that PR. Don't change your form to try to get that PR. That's where I think it can really fail. Don't switch exercises all the time so that you can arbitrarily, quote unquote, beat the logbook, but you're not making actual progress. Like that's where I'd say if you're so focused on being able to put in your +1 or whatever week to week at the expense of true progress, that's what I would just make sure people are actually concentrating on.
Yeah, the logbook can be an incredible tool, but it can also, if you don't really understand why you're doing it, then it can be a trap for sure.